Kwanzaa, and he's already covered certain aspects of that religious experience. And so, Dr. AAl-Hadid, let's pick up where we left off during the first segment and have you to continue our discussion.
Yeah, the key thing to understand in Kwanzaa is that Kwanzaa is literally a celebration of African American culture, family, and community. So let's talk about the idea of culture. One of the things that Maulana Karenga observed in 1966 is that African Americans had an identity crisis. It was the era of Black Power. It was the era of the Civil Rights Movement. And Maulana Karenga, along with some of the other nationalist groups such as the Nation of Islam and some of the Pan-Africanist group, they said, well, the key thing is not so much integration or desegregation. The most important thing for African Americans is we need to return to the values and the culture of, first of all, our ancient mothers and fathers from Africa, and secondly, to return to those values that we acquired once we got over here in the African diaspora, whether it was working on the plantations or during the period of Reconstruction. There were certain core values, you know, like reverence for ancestors, respect for elders, and sharing and caring. And so he wanted to see if we could put those values back together so that we could create a united front to wage struggle against white supremacy and racism, as opposed to the other groups who are trying to dismantle racism and capitalism through the process of assimilation and you know, integration. And so that, and when we speak of culture, we're talking about that structured and patterned way by which peoples of African descent carry on their lifestyles. It includes their values, their norms, their customs, their religion, their beliefs, their ideologies, their technology, everything that they do. Basically, you could say that culture is the personality of a people. And as you know, during that period of the of Jim Crow, one of the things that we use as a basis for unification is that we use our culture and we use our religious institutions. But now that the barriers of, the legal barriers of segregation have disappeared, we still need another way of coming together because the paradigm is shifting now from a conversation about color and race to a conversation about culture and language.
Good.
So now we have to compete in the open society with various ethnic groups who are unified because of their ethnicity. Say, for example, the Hispanics constitute an ethnic group as opposed to a racial group, or the Japanese, the Chinese. All these groups are bonded together because of their ethnicity, more so than being bonded together because of a reaction to white supremacy or a reaction to racism. And you can see how the other ethnic groups that have come over, say the Irish, they came over with their culture, they came over with a language. Or the Italians came over with a language and with a culture. And now we see the Hispanics are growing very strong, and they are somewhat different than most Americans. First of all, their mother tongue is not English. Their first language is Spanish. And most of them are not Protestants, they are Catholics. So they have an orientation toward the Vatican as opposed to an orientation toward Protestantism, if you will, or white Anglo-Saxon Protestant type of cultural orientation. Now, in order for African Americans to be able to compete in an emerging multi-ethnic democracy, we need to define who and what we are.
There you go.
And use the principles of self-determination in order to navigate our way through the open society. We need our culture in order for us to have a moral compass. We need our culture in order for us to have a cultural map so that we can see where we're going and how we're going to get there. But what's the most important thing for any group to understand is if you don't know where you've come from, it's impossible to know where you're going. You know? So we all have to stand on our past, to stand on our history, not to dwell on it, but the past becomes prologue, and the past becomes the way by which we achieve unity. So again, within that celebration, we celebrate the culture, and we also celebrate family. Family is very important, especially in the African American situation these days. Why am I saying this? Because when we were in Africa, our family system was not the nuclear family. Our family system was the extended family. So our family system was basic the clan system or the kinship system. Now, once we were brought over here, and that culture and that family system was taken from us. And so that we were put on the plantations as individuals. And whenever the plantation owners or the plantation masters would see that we spoke the same language, then the people who spoke the same language would divide. For example, you came over and you were speaking Mandinka and said, well, no, we're going to ship you to another plantation so you won't be able to communicate with each other. So culture now becomes the basis by which you are able to unify. And given the situation that we have today, we really need to figure out a way by which we can use the elements of culture in order to bind our people together. Now, when we look at the African American family, the African American family is not in a good situation. Starting, first of all, with the fact that 65 to 70% of the families do not have a father at home. And not that we're saying that the matriarch is something negative, but we would not want to have a matriarch by default. We would want to have a matriarch by choice. Now, this whole idea of being matrilineal, that's the African way, because in traditional African society, you trace your lineage through the mother line. So African culture, you have a matrilineal society, whereas in the Western world, we have the patrilineal society. You trace your lineage through your father line, and your name is based on your father's surname, right? But in this situation, we have too many families where there is no father at home, and oftentimes people do not even serve as surrogate fathers. You know, you might have an uncle or a cousin or something, or in-law who could perhaps serve that role, and oftentimes that doesn't happen either, you know. So we need to put a strong emphasis on family unity, family values, and real simple things like eating together for a meal at least once a day, praying together. You know, you heard it said the family that pray together will stay together. And we need to return to those values.
And we're going to take this second commercial. We'll take this second commercial break, and we'll be back following this very, very short commercial break. American, African American history of the 21st century.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, African American history of the 21st century.
He's a master historian. No doubt about it.
He talked about Du Bois and Carter G and that kind of information. You know, this is African American History Month, as you know.
Right.
And so we want to try to get all of that information in.
Yeah, this is good. This is your last show of the day.
This is it. This is it. I'm going to catch up with my granddaughter. She's at school now. She came by and was here this morning.
Yeah, because she picked up the phone earlier.
Yeah, that's. We didn't know you. I didn't know what your situation was.
Oh man, I didn't realize my phone went out, and that's why the communication was.
Hey, I know about them phones. Boy.
Well, you know, I hadn't charged my battery, and when I looked, I said, "What?" Because and that we had it going all the way down to zero. Man. So I had to put it back in.
Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Dr. AAl-Hadid, and the topic is Kwanzaa, and he's given us some information in reference to the African-American experience and Kwanzaa. And so let's pick up where we left off the last time, Dr. AAl-Hadid, and to take the next 8 or 9 minutes to simply inform our audience of some of the things that we're talking about here.
Yes, as I pointed out in the beginning, Maulana Karenga established Kwanzaa in California in 1966 in Los Angeles, California. And in Nashville, the Kwanzaa movement really got started around 1984, 1985 with people like Kwame Leo Lillard, myself, and also people like Maria Estes Hall, and just a number of people, Baba Musa, Mustafa Abdul Alim, and many of us came together, you know, to form the Kwanzaa movement. And so we have been having Kwanzaa since 1985 consistently. And one of the beautiful things about Kwanzaa this year, Kwanzaa 2015, is that every single night of Kwanzaa, we had a program. And each program averaged, in terms of attendance, averaged at least 150 people.
Oh, good.
The first one we had out at Nashville School of the Arts, we had about 300 people there as our opening. And so over the 7 nights of Kwanzaa celebration, I would say that we had at least about 1,500 people in attendance. We have a website. It's called Kwanzaa Nashville, for those people who want to learn more about Kwanzaa and where activities are taking place. As a matter of fact, we're going to have a follow-up from Kwanzaa on the 25th of this month at Watkins Park, and at which time we're going to talk about Dr. Martin Luther King. The title is Dr. Martin Luther King's Dream, the Unfinished Business, which would be racism, war, and poverty. And these are the things that Dr. King talked about in terms of the triple evil. So the thing that we agreed on inside of Kwanzaa Nashville is that we're going to have a year-round Kwanzaa. We'll come together for the 7 official days of Kwanzaa, which will be December 26th through January 1st. But at the same time, each month, we will have at least one activity to build on one of those principles. Say, for example, the first principle is emoji, which is unity. And that would be technically on December the 26th. But then when we come into the new year, January, we'll say that the whole month of January will be Emoji Month, and also February would be Kujichagulia Month. And so we'll talk about unity and we'll talk about self-determination. So we want to build here in Nashville. We want to introduce African Americans and others who might be interested to the value system that undergirds the celebration of Kwanzaa, with a view in mind of trying to bring our people together across their differences of religion. You have a lot of religions in our community, differences of education, differences of income levels, differences of neighborhoods, and just to bring them together so that we can support each other. Because when you look at those values, say Ujamaa, which is unity. We need unity in our community in order to solve some of our problems. Let's take a good example of what happened when we had the run for mayor here in Nashville.
Okay.
You know, our votes were split so many different ways, you know. And here in the 1st district, we had 7 people running for council person of District 1. You know, if we're really going to have some political strength, we should all come together and say we're just going to run one person, and this person is going to be our standard bearer, rather than splitting our votes in 7 or 8 different ways. You know,
like the Republican Party is doing now with all those folks that are trying to run good.
Well, you know, when you get to Republic, you know what they say about the Republicans and the Democrats as far as campaigning is concerned. It said that the Democrats fall in love to choose their candidate, and then the Republicans fall in line. So I think I think what we see on the stage now is just you know, a smokescreen. But as we approach the convention time in July, they are going to fall in line because the Republicans are about business, you know, and that type of thing. So we want to bring our people together. Let's take a principle which is Ujamaa, cooperative economics. And we have businesses in our community, you know, and we want our people to be patriotic and patronize our business. We got a Citizen Bank, we have a Keebler Image bookstore, we have, you know, we have frame shops, and we have restaurants, and so we have to patronize. We have these businesses within our community, you know. And back during the days of segregation, when we didn't have much of a choice, we had to go to Meharry Hospital, you know, because we couldn't go to Vanderbilt's Hospital.
Very good.
And then we have morticians, and we have beauty parlors in our community. And that's where the strengths come. You know, we should buy black, invest in black. Not that we're trying to, you know, use that as a way of, you know,
separating
ourselves, being separatists, but it's being intelligent. You know,
it's doing what most ethnic groups do.
All of them do it. You know, they support each other, so that's why you don't see them out protesting and marching, because as far as their economic power is concerned, they have sense enough to pool their money and unify around establishing their business and their economic activities. So these are some of the things that we're trying to do. Each month, we agree that we're going to have activities and support things. We need to support projects like the annual African Street Festival. You know, you get 25, 30,000 people coming out for that weekend of that.
As a matter of fact, you were among those that started the African Street Fair.
Well, I would give more credit to Brother Kwame Leo Lillard. Now, I have assisted him at various points, but he has Kwame and his family and a number of his associates were the ones that started that movement around 1984, 85, and then they have persisted. I think this year was the 30th anniversary of the African Street Festival, and they have also been very instrumental in supporting the Kwanzaa movement too. So the organization called the African American Cultural Alliance. Here again, the emphasis is on culture and trying to be strong, you know, in that regard. So I think that Kwanzaa is a holiday that more of our people need to study and understand. And some of the things I need to say now is that some people think, well, maybe Kwanzaa is a black Christmas. No, Kwanzaa is not in competition with Christmas. In fact,
it's after Christmas.
It's after Christmas and has nothing to do with Christmas. In fact, it's not even a religious holiday. It's a cultural holiday. And then I remember one time, you know, because we pour libations, people say, well, are you trying to return to the ancient African fertility gods and back to idolatry and paganism? No, this is not that. I think what people need to understand about the African concept of family and community is that the Africans believe in a concept of the living, the dead, and the unborn. So that when we speak of community, we include the living, the dead, and the unborn. And how do we remember the dead or our ancestors? We remember them by making an animal sacrifice, or remember them by pouring libations. And some people say, oh, you know, that's ancestor worship, and you're worshiping the dead. No, it's not ancestor worship. It is bringing attention to the fact that we want to remember those that came before us. The African idea is that there is a vital link that connects the living, the dead, and the unborn. And each of us would represent just one link in that eternal chain, you know. And so the African concept of culture and community is based on the concept of I am because we are. You know, the survival of the tribe and the survival of the family and the clan is more important than the individual, you know.
Okay, Dr. Al-Hadid, what we're going to do, we're going to have to take our break here and end this show for today.
Yes.
But let me thank you for bringing that excellent information, and let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you, and Good morning.